Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to PC Science class. In previous week, we have started the chapter Transport in Living Organisms. We will going to continue this chapter. The subtopics of this chapter which will be discussed today are blood and circulation of blood. So the objectives of the current lecture are, by the end of the lesson, students will be able to define blood, list the substances that are transported in the blood, state the composition of red blood cells, explain the composition of blood plasma, define the term tissue fluid, state the function of tissue fluid, describe the circulation of blood in the human body. So we're going to start with blood composition. Now, what is the quantity of blood in our body? Our human body contains about 4 to 5 liters of blood. Now, how to define blood? Blood is a mixture of red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, suspended in a pale yellow liquid called plasma. So, there are 4 quantities together which make the blood: red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. So blood is a mixture of red blood cells, platelets, white blood cells, and they are suspended in a pale yellow liquid called plasma. Next, we have to discuss the composition of red blood cells. They contain hemoglobin, which is made up of protein and iron. Now, hemoglobin combines loosely with oxygen when deoxygenated blood flows through the lungs, forming oxyhemoglobin, which is bright red in color. When oxygenated bloods flow through the capillaries, their oxyhemoglobin, they give up oxygen to the cells, and cells, they need oxygen for respiration. So red blood cells, they contain hemoglobin, which is made up of protein and iron, and hemoglobin in lungs combined with oxygen, forming oxyhemoglobin, which is bright red in color. And when the blood is flowing through the capillaries, oxyhemoglobin gives up oxygen to the cells for respiration. Next, we have to discuss blood plasma. It was the pale yellow liquid in which red blood cells, platelets, and white blood cells are present. Plasma is made up mainly of water with materials such as digested food, carbon dioxide, chemical messengers called hormones, and dissolved waste substances. So the pale yellow liquid of the blood is said to be blood plasma. It is mainly made up of water with materials such as digested food, carbon dioxide, hormones, and dissolved waste substances. Next, we have to discuss tissue fluid. Now, oxygenated blood flows through capillary walls. The walls of capillary, they are very thin, and capillaries, they are one cell thick and they have gaps in their walls. So when blood is flowing through the capillaries, the pale yellow liquid, which is the blood plasma, it leaks out through the gaps in the capillary wall, and it fills the space between the cell near to the capillaries, and this plasma, which fill the space between the cell and the capillaries, is said to be tissue fluid. Okay, this is the capillary blood vessel. It has gaps in its wall and blood is flowing through the capillary. This is the space between the capillary wall and the body cell. So when blood is flowing through the capillary, the blood plasma leaks through the gaps present in the wall of capillary, and it fills the space present between the capillary wall and the body cell. So the blood plasma, which fills the space between the capillary wall and the cell, is said to be tissue fluid. Tissue fluid carries the substances between the blood and the body cells. For example, oxygen and digested food present in the blood, they move from the blood to the cell. And waste substances and carbon dioxide present in the cell. They move from the cell to the blood. Tissue fluid and blood plasma that flow in and out of the gaps in the capillary are very efficient in moving materials between the cell and the blood. Next, we have to discuss circulatory system. The blood circulatory system is responsible for transporting materials throughout the entire body. It transports nutrition, water, and oxygen to billions of body cells and carries away waste materials such as carbon dioxide that the body cell produce. It is an amazing highway that travels through our entire body, connecting all our body cells. Now, the components of the blood circulatory system are heart, blood, and blood vessels. We have discussed blood in detail. Arteries are the blood vessels which take the blood away from the heart, and they take oxygenated blood away from the heart to the different parts of the body. Veins, they carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. Arteries, they split up into tiny blood vessels known as capillaries. In capillaries, exchange of materials and gases take place between the blood and the body cells. Capillaries, they join to form large blood vessels known as veins. In the blood circulatory system, we will going to see two colors, red and blue. Red color represent oxygenated blood which is rich in oxygen. Blue color represent deoxygenated blood which is rich in carbon dioxide. Okay, now we're going to discuss the circulation of blood. It starts from the right side of the heart. The right side of the heart pumps blood to the lungs through pulmonary artery. So, pulmonary artery takes deoxygenated blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs. In the lungs, carbon dioxide is removed from the blood and oxygen is absorbed by the blood. When oxygen is absorbed by the blood, it becomes oxygenated blood. That oxygenated blood, it returns to the left side of the heart through pulmonary vein. So pulmonary vein brings oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the heart. Now what happens? This oxygenated blood is then transferred to all the other parts of the body by a large artery known as aorta. So arteries basically they do what? They take the oxygenated blood to the various parts of the blood. We're going to discuss the different type of arteries. Carotid artery, it takes the blood from aorta to head and arms, whereas mesenteric arteries, they take the oxygenated blood from aorta to digestive tract. Renal artery, it takes the oxygenated blood from aorta to kidneys. Iliac artery takes the blood from aorta to the legs. Now, when oxygenated blood it moves to the different parts of the body, it loses oxygen. Oxygen is gained by the body cells, and then the blood becomes deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood is carried back to the heart by veins. So there are two major types of veins, superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava, it brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper parts of the body back to the right side of the heart. Inferior vena cava brings the deoxygenated blood from the lower parts of the body to back to the right side of the heart. Now, Jugular vein, it brings the deoxygenated blood from the head and arms to the superior vena cava, which takes the deoxygenated blood to the right side of the heart. Hepatic vein, it brings the deoxygenated blood from the liver to inferior vena cava, which takes the blood back to the right side of the heart. Hepatic portal vein, it brings the deoxygenated blood from digestive tract to inferior vena cava, which takes the deoxygenated blood to the right side of the heart. Then we have renal vein. It takes the deoxygenated blood from the kidneys to the inferior vena cava, which takes the deoxygenated blood back to the right side of the heart. Then we have iliac vein, which takes the deoxygenated blood from the legs to the inferior vena cava, which takes the blood back to the right side of the heart. So this diagram shows the circulation of blood. Now we're going to do the recap of circulation of blood starting from the right side of the heart. Heart pumps out the blood through the main arteries, which is said to be the pulmonary artery, to the lungs. In the lungs, the blood collects oxygen and carbon dioxide is removed from the blood. The blood from the lungs, it returns to the heart by flowing through the pulmonary vein, and then that blood is said to be the oxygenated blood. This time it enters the heart to the left side. Left side of the heart pumps the blood to the large artery known as aorta. Then aorta supply this oxygenated blood to the different arteries, which take the blood to the various parts of the body. Arteries, they split up into small blood vessels known as capillaries. Exchange of gases, digested food, minerals, waste substances take place between the cell and the blood through the thin walls of capillaries. Capillaries, they join to form large blood vessel known as veins, and veins, they take deoxygenated blood back to the right side of the heart. Next, we have to discuss the different type of arteries. We're going to do the recap. Arteries, they bring oxygenated blood from the heart to the various part of the body, except for one artery that is said to be pulmonary artery. It takes deoxygenated blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs. Then there is a main large artery known as aorta, and the left side of the heart, it pumps oxygenated blood to aorta. Aorta then supply the blood to the remaining arteries, which take the oxygenated blood to the various parts of the body. For example, carotid artery, it takes oxygenated blood from aorta to the heads and arms. Mesenteric artery, it takes oxygenated blood from aorta to digestive tract. Renal artery, it takes oxygenated blood from aorta to the kidneys. Iliac artery takes oxygenated blood from aorta to the legs. Next, we have to discuss the veins. We have to do the recap of the veins. Veins, they carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart, except for one vein that is said to be the pulmonary vein. It carries oxygenated blood from the lungs back to the left side of the heart. Now, there are two major veins. Superior vena cava, it brings the deoxygenated blood from the upper part of the body to the right side of the heart. Inferior vena cava brings deoxygenated blood from the lower part of the body back to the right side of the heart. Jugular vein brings deoxygenated blood from the arms and head to superior vena cava, and hepatic portal vein brings deoxygenated blood from the digestive tract to inferior vena cava. Hepatic vein brings the deoxygenated blood from the lungs to inferior vena cava. Renal artery, it supplied deoxygenated blood from the kidneys to inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava then takes the blood back to the right side of the heart. The last one is iliac artery. It supplied deoxygenated blood from the legs to inferior vena cava, which takes the deoxygenated blood back to the right side of the heart. This is all for today. I hope the lecture is clear to you. We will going to discuss new chapter in the next week. So for till then, take care, take care of yourself, your family, respect your parents, your elders, and give love to your younger ones. Allah Hafiz.